You are tuned into Mostly Humans. The opinions and views shared by the hosts of this podcast are uniquely their own and do not reflect the view or opinions of the companies they work for. P.S. Don't sue or fire us. Thanks so much. Now let's get into the episode.
I actually moved to Bing. I was the only person using Bing on the planet. I'm sure of it.
Yeah, you might be actually the only Bing user I've heard of ever, I think. Welcome back to Mostly Humans, an AI and business podcast for everyone. We break down complex topics and the latest in AI to benefit you, the everyday person, and help showcase how these tools can impact your business operations. Today, I am one of your hosts, Justin Wright. I am joined by my ever-talented co-host, Matt Bigelow. Matt, how we doing?
Doing well. Just got back from another week in Vegas at a work conference. It was really cool. It was really telling. It was an IT-focused conference. Everyone in IT is very curious about what's going on in AI, but there's not a lot of adoption happening.
Mm-hmm.
Every single bit of legacy tech that was present in the exhibitor section of this conference was what we've always done plus AI. Promise we are the best ever.
Yeah. We have AI now. Look at us.
IT has always viewed themselves as a strategic partner to the business, enabling whatever it is the business wants to do with technology. They haven't always felt that reciprocity. Take care of this ticket, get the laptops out, do the software migration, make sure the phone systems don't break. If they do, fix it fast. And what I learned from talking to a bunch of IT folks is I think they're going to play a huge role in the next couple of years in the enterprise rolling out AI because they understand technology super, super well.
Yes.
And now agents are labor or agents are software, lots of debate there. But IT has this unique opportunity to have the business start to view them as that strategic partner that enables whatever the company's trying to deploy. If IT leans into AI. Now, I don't think a lot of them are yet, but they're so uniquely qualified to do it. Product managers are as well. Software engineers are as well. But IT is kind of that team that plays across all departments at a company. So I had a lot of really interesting conversations out there.
Yeah. Well, IT is like, they're often the unsung heroes where they're the first person people go to when things are broken and all of the infrastructure relies on them. Like IT and then, like DevOps engineers, which we talked about many podcasts ago, where the people who keep all the servers running, where like you don't realize how important they are until you have a problem. And then, they're the go-to people. And the point that you just made about, product managers being really critical as well. There was an interesting article semi-recently about how like product management, engineering, and design are all merging into one role with AI tools now. And the future of those roles are going to be, you kind of have to be able to do everything because you don't necessarily need to be a true software engineer anymore with this agentic world, which is actually a good segue to what we want to talk about today. I'm doing the segue now. You see that? Where Peter Steinberger, the guy who created OpenClaw, previously Moltbot, previously Claudebot, OpenAI hired him to lead the charge on the development of personal autonomous agents in the future, which I think is really interesting.
Yeah. And if you guys are looking for what is the history of Claudebot, OpenClaw, Moltbot, whatever, go a couple episodes back. We covered that extensively. But I'll give our listeners the quick TLDR if they're not interested in all of that. So Peter Steinberger, a sole engineer in this case, created a project which is now called OpenClaw. It can run in the cloud, but primarily runs on your machine, which is why you guys have seen so many people talking about MacBook Minis. The whole agent runs off of your machine, which gives it a lot of data privacy and security that people are looking for if you know how to set it up appropriately. If you give it free reign to all of your data, then it could still be very, very risky. He developed this product open sourced. It's on GitHub, open source, meaning that many, many engineers are contributing to it and critiquing it and making it better. And it really is the first huge milestone in autonomous workers working 24/7 people have seen. It has very surprising outputs. People are starting all kinds of businesses. People are having it do things for their personal life, like wiring their smart homes. So you can like say to WhatsApp, hey, I want the temperature to be a little bit warmer when I get home. It's freezing cold outside. Make it 71 degrees and it can do it. So that's effectively what it is. It's probably the most viral project in the history of software engineering, certainly in AI. OpenAI has come in and paid an unknown amount of money for Peter to join. He had competing offers from Meta, and is being said, one of his red lines is it needs to remain an open source project. So it will continue to be, but he is now an employee of OpenAI. And a lot of the work that he's going to be doing moving forward is for them and not for this viral project.
Yes, and one of his terms was exactly that. And so OpenClaw will become an independent foundation with support from OpenAI. It's really interesting. OpenClaw originally was primarily leveraging Anthropic's APIs, and then Anthropic kind of they didn't put the kibosh on it, but they put like a slight kibosh. They restricted some of the API access for OpenClaw agents and whatever. And we've seen this interesting shift, I'd say, like Q4 2025 through the beginning of 2026, where Anthropic, because of Claude Code, because of Claude Cowork, really rocketed ahead of a lot of other competitors in terms of usage and actual real world applications. And we've seen this shift slowly happening over the course of the last year, where everybody who started using AI, it was all ChatGPT. And there's a lot of people who still only use ChatGPT. But as Anthropic's tools got better, a lot of enterprise usage actually started shifting to Anthropic and to Claude versus OpenAI. And so OpenAI kind of became more this end consumer tool with their agent kit and all of these things, whereas Anthropic was doing more and more enterprise work, coding work, development work. And I see this move as OpenAI trying to get back into that cool kids sandbox by bringing on this extremely talented developer who clearly knows how to build agentic products. And, their updates recently to Codex, which is OpenAI's version of Claude Code, essentially, is really, really good. And people are starting to find that it's better for certain applications than Claude Code. And so to me, this is like OpenAI showing back up at the party with, some cool sunglasses on and letting people know that they're still serious.
I love that. There's some PR aspects to this that are undeniably important. If you can acquihire the most spoke about engineer on the planet, then of course that's going to be good for business, and eyeballs are good for business. Me personally, I fell in love with Claude probably March of 2025. I think that was around the first time the Opus model came out. Maybe I was on Sonnet and then Opus came out shortly after. And I can't quantify this for anybody, but to me, it's just so unbelievably unrivaled awesome what it does for me. It's hard to say because it's a probabilistic tool, right? I don't spend a lot of time putting something in ChatGPT or Gemini or Claude and then comparing. It's just, I came to it with some really challenging things that I wanted to do, and it just inferred what I wanted to do. It used the right tools, the skills, which we've talked about. It just got things done for me. So I was just like, why change? This is great, right? And I think what we're going to see here is this is a big move for OpenAI because you and I have struggled to articulate to our audience, even though we do the best we possibly can, ways that people could actually use agents, how they can set them up, what makes an agent, what doesn't make an agent. And even though Anthropic's Claude has really won over so many people just like me, and it's so good at coding that the Cowork product, which we said at the time was the coolest thing that we had ever seen, can code whatever apps you need, that it can invent them out of thin air to get the job done. That's awesome. And that's a huge step forward for people. However, we know that OpenAI has a stranglehold on the consumer use cases, right? So Claude Cowork, I would really trust Claude Cowork and Claude Code to get something very agentic done at work, because my company has a company license to that and they stand behind what they do and all that kind of stuff. Whereas OpenAI, like people say, I ChatGPT'd that like they used to say I Googled that, right? But it's never been easy to access agents for anybody anywhere. You and I talk to knowledge workers on this podcast and we can't fully get them to do it. And they're like, is this even an agent? Even though it's despite our best abilities. Now, OpenClaw is arguably the hardest agent to get started with if you're non-technical, because you have to install it on your computer via the terminal. We've talked about that. But what is OpenAI masterful at? Taking the complex and making it simple. And that's how you get huge, huge adoption. So I want to comment less on like, was this a good business move? Should Anthropic have bought them or whatever? I don't really care. That's for them. But what does this mean for listeners? And what does this mean for the future of AI? I think this means massive adoption 6 months from now of agents for your average person.
Yeah.
Right. That's what I think this means. And I think that's huge. And I think that's going to change a lot really fast in ways we could never even possibly imagine, even today.
Yeah. Well, I think it unlocks a world where you have like a one-click deploy of an agent that is trained to do a specialized set of tasks. And, now you can talk to it, call it or text it or whatever. I mean, OpenAI has real-time voice models, so they can run this through their entire software suite, essentially, where you could literally one-click deploy a personal digital assistant that knows everything about you because OpenAI has safe connectors to your Gmail, your calendar, whatever. I think the things that I highlighted on our OpenClaw episode were the security concerns that are getting better because it is a very technical product to set up. It's very easy to miss steps if you are not an engineer and you're just trying to leverage the technology, and you can open yourself up to security risks and issues and all of this. If OpenAI deploys this in a safe way where you're using their platform to deploy your agent and you're connecting using their connectors to your mail, your calendar, your apps, whatever, well, now suddenly we have an easy to deploy and security conscious version of an incredibly powerful tool, which unlocks the next wave of AI adoption for your average person who was blown away by ChatGPT's responses and now can be blown away by this autonomous agent that handles their life in the background.
Yep. That's exactly how I see it as well. And people talk about whether or not like it's a miss for companies to do this stuff or not. I think there's lanes for things like you and I have talked about on many podcasts, and Sam Altman has said this as well. They do amazing stuff in the enterprise and B2B world. That's where a huge chunk of their revenue comes from. But he has said that they want to own the consumer space. And they talked about this being like a personal assistant and personalized agents like in the announcement. So what does this mean like practically for listeners? What can you all expect the way Justin and I predicted? So first of all, you don't have to open up a literal black box with a blinking cursor that scares you to install OpenClaw on your computer very soon. Who knows how soon, but it'll be awesome. The security concerns that Justin highlighted when we last spoke about this, I think you'll now know where you're in the danger zone and where you're not if you actually read the little prompts that they're going to put on the screen and say like, are you sure you want to do this? We're going to read and write and all this kinds of stuff. If you guys choose to actually read that, it'll tell you what is and what isn't, versus Justin did a really great job of educating us before these guardrails existed about all the ways that this could go wrong if you were going to install it. They'll take care of a lot of that for us, which is what great software companies do. I think it also means that you will all be able to access your computer remotely. And that is just a huge, huge unlock. It also means this idea of, should I buy a Mac Mini? Should I buy some Dell computer to run this thing on that people have been talking about? I think OpenAI is going to simplify that. And for users, you probably don't care that much, but like most of the things that you guys do exist in the cloud. And Justin clarified for us on the last episode, one of the big reasons people loved OpenClaw is it kind of had like infinite memory. It like knew everything that's ever happened, every chat that you've had with it, and all the things that it's done on its own. Justin helped us understand that because you're storing that on your computer, it's able to do that. I think they're going to be able to create virtual computers, which means that now you guys just wish it knew more and remembered more. You ran out of context less. Like I think that's going to kind of go away pretty soon. And I think data centers are just going to continue to explode because now they're going to have virtual computers in them like crazy. You might even be able to license your own virtual computer. They might offer you like a $200 license for you to have your own virtual computer. They're just going to make it easy. And now you all will be able to talk probably to ChatGPT instead of just WhatsApp and Telegram, and tell it, go on your computer, do this thing, have this thing printed out for you and waiting for you, right? Do this, do that. Go into those files from the longest time ago. What was that client I dealt with? I think I downloaded an attachment for that order form. I think I see him at this conference right now. I forget his name. I think they were like a medical device company. Don't worry, got you. And it goes into the deepest, darkest depths of your computer, finds that attachment, tells you what the person's name is, and sends you their LinkedIn. All the benefits of what you've heard about people doing, you're like, I want to get in on that. And it feels hard when you actually get started. It's going to go away, and y'all are going to be able to use this. That's going to change everything. When every person you know that uses ChatGPT can now have agents running for them, I don't know where we're going to be. I really don't. It's cool.
Yes. No, I agree. And I think there's a couple layers to this. One is OpenAI has some of the best interfaces, and they've innovated some of the best tools to actually interact with AI. Like the example that you just gave, you run into somebody at a conference. A lot of people may not know this, but OpenAI has a real-time video capability where you could have your phone, you could be walking around your conference and you could be like, oh wait, who's this guy? And you're talking to your phone through like your AirPods or whatever while you are videoing a conference attendees. And OpenAI can identify that person today if you've spoken about them in a conversation with this real-time video enabled. Now, to Matt's point, if you have this agent that can access your information, your history, your conversation history, your files, your computer, you can do that same thing with OpenAI's video capability that already exists and works. But now it has this additional layer of intelligence and capability. So I think OpenAI has done a very good job of creating these interfaces that are helpful. They're pushing the boundaries on real-time agentic voice. They're pushing the capability boundaries of AI tools. So not necessarily just the model capabilities, right? Which is where I think Anthropic has really rocketed ahead with Claude Code, Claude Cowork, or whatever. And they're building these tools in that ecosystem. But OpenAI has certainly done a really good job of, in many ways, kind of like Apple, of building these consumer experiences that are very frictionless. And so adding this agentic layer to it and this new capability on top of those frictionless experiences unlocks these capabilities for a lot of everyday people. I think you're hitting a massive market where the Venn diagram, there was some overlap, I think, between people who use ChatGPT and OpenClaw, but I think that overlap is fairly small because I think OpenClaw was primarily used by the heavy Claude Code Anthropic power users. And so now you're opening up this whole other realm of humans that can leverage this technology, which might, again, drive even more adoption of AI tools, because if it can live in your ChatGPT and now you can connect to your OpenClaw agent that does all this stuff, and it just becomes that much easier to use.
What I want everyone listening to this to know is that like it's finally very, very close to being here. Who knows if it'll be called OpenClaw, because I think OpenClaw has like a guarantee from OpenAI to exist over here with the support of the OpenAI team. And then Peter Steinberger and whoever is going to join his team are probably going to be developing a version of it based off of its core principles exclusively for OpenAI. And then new feature releases and stuff and ideas that he has will be through the OpenAI product. But of course, the open source community can still do whatever they want with OpenClaw. So when that feature comes out, what I think you all can expect is remote access to your computer, something that you can just say to it, do this thing all the time, or I want to go to sleep and I want you to monitor everything that happened in the news last night as it relates to this financial sector, because half the world is working while you're asleep. And I want to wake up every morning with an SMS or in my ChatGPT with a summary of that. And it's just going to do it. You're just going to be able to say it and it's going to do it. I have a feeling they're probably going to really incorporate the Atlas browser, which lets you do agentic already. The mouse moves kind of slow. It's not as good as you want it to be. OpenClaw solved a lot of that stuff by taking control of the computer. I think they're going to find ways to incorporate that with Atlas as well. I think this time next year, probably everyone listening to this, if you're a heavy ChatGPT user, you're probably going to be using Atlas for browsing because they're going to make it easy. And all of a sudden they're going to ask, do you want to make this your preferred browser? You'd be like, yeah, because it's just like, it does it all for me. It's amazing. And then truly, it can do anything. If you all haven't heard previous episodes where we talked about Cowork and Claude Code and OpenClaw, the reason they are so powerful is if the application that you're talking to, OpenClaw, doesn't know how to do the thing, it's so good at coding that it'll write an application. It'll make one up out of thin air to get the job done. Code is really just tools to be used to do a thing. We used to have to wait for developers to build them, and if they didn't, then we didn't have one. Now it builds it for itself, and it can build it for your machine, and it can build it for your browser. So that's the technical unlock. If you're like, well, how is it going to do all of that? That's how it's going to get it done.
I think it's funny, like you can never count OpenAI out. People are saying, oh, like, all the other model providers are doing better or whatever. But think about the fundamental building blocks that OpenAI has assembled here prior to this acqui-hire. They have memory. They were the first to introduce memory across chat sessions, if you recall, right? Where every time you open a chat in ChatGPT tied to your account, if you're logged in, it has a memory of all your previous interactions. So if I ask a question about prepping for a demo or doing research on a company or whatever for my work, it knows what I do for work. It knows the questions I've asked in the past. It knows the output that I prefer. And so over time, it has gotten very good at answering questions in a way that is helpful for me, giving me information in a format that is helpful for me. So we have that memory, right? So if you have all of these conversations that already exist and now you can deploy an agent, well, now it already knows what style of information you prefer. It already knows what you do. It already knows the types of questions you've asked in the past, the types of things that you're doing regularly. And OpenAI also launched the Pulse feature a little while ago, which is essentially that message at the beginning of the day with some relevant information. And that can be customized a little bit, but it has its limitations. So they already have all this plumbing and infrastructure to plug a tool like OpenClaw in that's built specifically for their platform in a secure way, where now it can leverage all of this stuff that already exists. And so they've done a really good job, I think, of building these building blocks and these pieces that this, in my opinion, really becomes the missing link for them to create a truly powerful, personal, agentic platform end to end.
Yep. I've gone through a bunch of different highs and lows with these tools. So actually, the very first tool that I fell in love with was a wrapper on top of ChatGPT. And I used that product for a while. And then I discovered ChatGPT and I thought, wow, this is awesome. But then very quickly, because of the limitations on being trained only up till 2021. Do you remember those days? It was like forever ago, right? I actually moved to Bing. I was the only person using Bing on the planet. I'm sure of it.
Yeah, you might be actually the only Bing user I've heard of ever, I think.
So I heard on a podcast because of the affiliation with Microsoft that they rolled it into Bing. So I was getting real-time web research mixed with the LLM, and it was amazing. And then, of course, Gemini dropped, or I think it was, what was it called before Gemini?
Bard was the original.
Bard, yeah. Ooh.
And Bard was not good.
Gemini came out. I'm like, okay, they do Google search, and they are Google and it's LLM. So I started using that a whole bunch. And then, of course, Claude came and rocked my world. And I've really become like just a huge Claude user. I'm with this acquisition, I'm probably going to be using OpenAI products more than anything in like 6 months. That's just how I feel. I'll give you an example. So something I've been doing a ton of lately, is making my own music. I've shared a couple of tracks with you, actually.
If the pod doesn't work out, you can be a DJ spinning your own AI tracks for sure.
One of my buddies has worn out a song I've made in his household. He's played it so much on his phone. He really enjoys it that his family is like, I'm so sick of whatever this song is. Stop playing it. So there's two people that enjoy my tracks, me and him, but I make them constantly. Right. And I actually make them for the gym. And there's a certain style that I want for the gym. It's like motivational lyrics, but I don't need the swear words and all that kind of stuff. And I want it to be about like grinding and perseverance. I don't listen to it too closely, but I kind of want it in the background just to get me through these morning workouts. So I'm on Suno all the time in the gym. I'm making songs in between sets and I'm like just listening to them and it gets it done, right? Now it's become a really important thing for me and it's helping me out in my workouts. I'm spending less time going through the same old songs that I can't stand anymore. So if I could just say to ChatGPT, got a miserable leg day tomorrow, I'm going to need some serious stuff. I'm thinking a mixture of like EDM, pop, and definitely some rap songs. Keep it motivational. Want the playlist ready to go tomorrow. And I actually want it on my YouTube music so it's organized. Thank you. Bye. Go to sleep. Wake up and it's there. You got me. You got me. And I'm not using Claude if that becomes possible, if you can do that for me. So if you make my life that easy, I might be making that move. So I'm very excited because they own consumer so well. And I think this is a consumer product. And I'm really excited to see what they do with it.
I actually also think, to take that even a step further, the cool thing about what I think Steinberger will bring to OpenAI is it will know you're doing a leg day coming up because it's tied into your fitness app, and it will know the type of music that you like, and it will say, it'll ping you in the morning and be like, Matt, I noticed that you have a pretty aggressive leg day today. We have a playlist queued up for you. It's organized. It's ready to rock. Let me know what you think. And I think that is the level that it will get to. And that's what people started to see with OpenClaw. Just funny story is one guy was like, I just heard my doorbell ring and I went out and there was a DoorDash order because my OpenClaw bot had figured that I hadn't eaten in 8 hours and was probably hungry, and it ordered enough food for me to get my daily calorie intake. Like those type of things had happened, and it's kind of silly, but and because it is still a little bit of the Wild West. But when you actually bring that into an established interface and ecosystem like OpenAI, and you have the right guardrails on it, like those are the type of predictive things that it will be able to do within reason that I think are really exciting.
Well, it's funny that you say that because I actually just misrepresented what it already does. You're right. With the heartbeat pulse feature that it has, if I told it, hey, one of the things that's important to me is that you just get to know my schedule and get to know what kind of technology tools I use each day, and just make it easier for me, it would interpret that to do what Justin just said, and it can do that today. So I actually oversimplified it, if you will, because what I described is more of an ad hoc thing. Now, what I did describe is not very easy to do today because I don't have any application or interface right now that connects with my tools that simply, that I've given it that access, because I'm afraid of it from a security standpoint. Even if it's running locally on a machine, I don't totally trust it, but I would trust it through OpenAI. But what Justin's highlighted is also true. And where the real delightful stuff starts to happen, it does know everything. It has infinite context and memory. And if you kind of gave it a hint to surprise you, gave it the authority to do these things, it would do that.
It's exciting times. It's exciting times. I think it was a great acquisition. I have a lot of appreciation also for Steinberger and his desire to leave OpenClaw as an independent foundation, let the community continue to iterate and build. The thing that I'm most interested in is actually watching the parallel development of OpenClaw and whatever he builds with OpenAI, right? Because now you have this foundation that's going to be supported, that has an open source community of developers who are building and iterating. And so it'll be interesting to watch the two ships as they drive forward, and to see what OpenAI is able to build and innovate on, and how that compares to what OpenClaw continues to be and become in the future. So that's one of the things that I think really cool and important that he kept that as an open source foundation, but it'll be interesting to watch what happens as those two lanes converge.
Yeah, I think it's great. I love it because I think the super smart engineers who know how to take calculated risks with data and security are going to build some of the craziest stuff in the open source project. And then OpenAI can take that and turn it into consumer friendly for people who are less technical like me and make my life easier. I will wrap on saying, if you guys haven't checked out his interview, he's done a bunch of media, Peter Steinberger, you should, because I think it'll also make you really excited about this guy being this influential and a consumer product that's going to come out, that's going to make all of our lives easier, because he's extremely authentic.
Yeah.
He is not pompous in any way. He doesn't just think he's holier than thou because he works in technology or anything like that. He's a very authentic, normal person who just happens to be a really great engineer. And, all the examples he always gives, I have a personal sweet spot for them, because he's always talking about how can he make AI agents work with MyFitnessPal easier and his workout apps easier. And I'm like, yes, yes, yes. So he has this, I think, similar passions to me. He wants to solve annoying fitness app problems. So I'm guilty as charged of saying, I hope he tackles that first.
Yeah, no, I agree. To echo that, he is a very genuine, authentic, intelligent, interesting individual, and highly recommend watching some of the interviews that he's done recently. But yeah, exciting times ahead. As soon as whatever he builds is available, you can trust that Matt and I will test drive it and probably do a high alert episode on it to get visibility into that for you all. And we will be the guinea pigs, but I'm excited for that opportunity. I'm looking forward to seeing what they're able to release. That's all I got. Thanks for tuning in. As always, share us with maybe 2 friends. People have been good about sharing us with one friend. Maybe share us with 2 friends. That if it's not too much, And in the future, you can have your OpenClaw, whatever they call it in OpenAI ecosystem, just share our podcast with everybody, even people who you don't know yet.
It's going to be a bold future. You all will be able to say, hey, you know what? Today's pod was really good. I think the people that are closest to me, that I talk to the most, would really benefit from this. Send it to them. That's it. And it's just going to actually get done. It's going to know who's the closest to you and all that kind of stuff. It's going to be bold. It's going to be fun. Like and subscribe and recommend to Dos Personas. And we will see you next time.
See you next time. Bye, everybody.
Bye.